Locked In starts in the activity when a medical caretaker at an emergency clinic excitedly requests that her patient speak with her. As can be perceived, this is an exceptionally uncommon event since the patient has been in a totally lethargic state for the last numerous days. The medical caretaker, Nikki McKenzie, holds up letters in order board before the patient, Catherine Carter. Since the last option can't utilize the vast majority of her body still and can't talk either, as the lady has just barely had the option to move her eyelids. She has begun to convey by squinting at the letters called out by Nikki. Subsequent to squinting at the letters M, U, and R, the attendant doesn't take long to sort out that the word the patient is spelling for her is murder. Albeit this is an incredibly strange practice for both a medical attendant and a patient, Nikki isn't excessively stunned by everything Catherine appears to say to her. Throughout the course of recent weeks since Catherine had been confessed to the medical clinic, Nikki thought that something strangely off base unquestionable necessity happened to her. Horrendously harmed with the vast majority of her body and face completely deadened, Catherine had been accounted for to have been run over by a vehicle and was conceded in a practically vegetative state. Such was her condition that the specialists were uncertain about whether the lady was really alive and cognizant inside, just secured on the grounds that she couldn't convey, or whether she had entered an insensible state totally. Consequently, when Catherine can move her eyelids as of now, Nikki hustles to figure out what precisely befell her. The medical caretaker's doubt has likewise been raised on the grounds that the main individual who stays with Catherine, a young lady named Lena, had additionally been to the clinic before, visiting one more understanding who must be assisted by the expert with nursing. While Nikki's discoveries are only a scratch on a superficial level, Secured uncovers the horrendous and shameful mysteries that have been covered in the Decision House domain. Who is Lena? Why had a relationship with Catherine changed? The way that Lena is the main individual who comes to monitor Catherine at the emergency clinic appears to make Nikki wonder about the relationship that the two offer. Despite the fact that her generally customary visits make it appear as though the two are very near one another, Lena's hesitance to straightforwardly focus on her with her own hands hints towards some distance between them. Finally, when Nikki sits down with Lena fairly early and Locked In, she and the viewers are made aware of the old but complex relationship between the two women. Catherine, who is significantly older than Lena, had been best friends with the latter's mother, Danielle, ever since their childhood days. Catherine was an orphan growing up in foster care in presumably London, and she would spend most of her time with Danielle at the latter's house. The pair remained close friends after growing up, too. However, Catherine's fortune turned when she became an actress and gained fame and wealth, as she states in the film. Catherine never wanted to grow apart from Danielle, but the latter wanted to keep a distance since she was still stuck in poverty, and her best friend was now supremely rich. Since Danielle could play the piano very well, Catherine had made a promise that she would buy her a grand piano once she made enough money, and the woman claimed that the very piano currently at her home had indeed been bought for her best friend. Regarding this falling out between the two friends, there is evidently disagreement since Lena, Danielle's daughter, claims that the actress was the one who abruptly wished to avoid her common friend. It's not hard to envision Catherine doing that, given her boasts about how much money she spent on a piano for her best friend. However, she said that Danielle had rejected her once she relocated to the US for business and that, at that time, the woman had been murdered by someone. The exact reason her story behind the death of Danielle's mother is not revealed in Locked In, but it is mentioned that Lena had abandoned her mother at their home, and that she had been murdered while alone. If I am to take a guess about this matter, then it seems most likely that Danielle had been killed for some money or drug-related problem while her daughter was away. Then, 14 years in the past, Catherine had adopted the teenage Lena after the girl had recently lost her mother. Catherine had just returned to England from a fruitful period of time spent in Hollywood, and she was married to a very wealthy and aristocratic guy back home. Her husband possessed a vast estate known as Rolling Manor, but misfortune befell him in more ways than one. The man gave everything to his son, Jamie, instead of transferring any of his fortune or assets into Catherine's name. This son was from his first marriage, and this whole situation meant that Catherine now had to look after her stepson in order to continue living a life of luxury at the estate. Since Lena had also lost her mother recently, Catherine took on the role of a legal guardian for the young girl and brought her to Rolling Manor, only a few years older than Jamie. Lena fit in well as the caretaker and friend to the boy exactly as Catherine seemingly intended things to be. As the woman returned to her life of glitz and glamour a few months later, someone still needed to be at home to provide company to Jamie. And Lena stepped into this role. Jamie had also been sickly since his childhood days, and he often had seizures that needed to be tended to urgently. The boy had also developed this illness of his as a means to draw attention to himself whenever he wanted to, and this habit continued even in his adult life. Although Catherine had effectively trusted Lena to look after Jamie on her behalf, She had never imagined that Lena would eventually be reclaiming her role in the home, since Lena, then Jamie, never left the house to pursue an education or a career. It turned out that Jamie grew completely in love with Lena. It's clear that living a socially crippled existence drew the two closer. A few years ago, Jamie and Lena were married. Catherine found it difficult to process this abrupt turn of events since it implied that Lena, as the owner's legal wife, now held greater influence than she did, and that the manor and land would be further beyond her grasp. It was for this reason that the relationship between the two had changed and turned strenuous, as there remained very little trust in the mother-daughter. What was Robert's real plan? While the marriage between Jamie and Lena had made them rich and part of the aristocratic upper class, in a way, there was simply no romantic spark between the two. It was very obvious that Lena craved attention and intimacy. And when a third person walked into their relationship, she could not hold herself back. Jamie was being treated by their family physician, Robert Lawrence, a handsome man only a few years older than the patient and his wife. It is Robert in whom Lena finds the lover she has been craving, and the two start an affair very soon. However, as Lockton puts it, Robert Lawrence had a very different plan of his own, and this affair was only part of his evil scheme. To put it simply, Robert wanted all the wealth and property that belonged to Jamie, and he had made a tight plan to get hold of it, either in the form of the Rolling Manor property or in the form of cash that would come after selling it off. He purposefully wooed Lena, knowing well that she would be the heir to the entire property if something happened to her husband, Jamie. Surely enough, something was to happen to Jamie very soon, since he was still the rightful heir. When Catherine and Jamie eventually learned of Lena's infidelity, the wife became irate at their comments. Lena was eager to move on and start a new life with her new partner, as she was also experiencing true love and passion for the first time. Dr. Robert Lawrence had been waiting for this exact moment when Lena would consent to his scheme, willing to do whatever it took to win their love. The doctor needed Jamie out of the picture. Now that he had succeeded in keeping him socially crippled and constrained in life through his addiction to painkillers and other nerve-relaxing medicines. If Jamie decided to divorce Lena, then that would spoil the entire plan for the doctor. Therefore, he takes Jamie and Lena boating one afternoon and then intentionally capsizes the boat, making all three of them fall into the water. While both Robert and Lena were avid swimmers, Jamie could not swim. The doctor then pulled him down to the depths of the water to drown and kill him. Lena was now a widow with all the wealth and money in the world, and her lover wanted her to sell off the property, to liquidate the fortune in cash, which would make him rich as well. However, Lena had also realized the devilish nature of Robert, and so she decided not to follow his plan. Also, because of her love and respect for Catherine, who would become homeless if she sold off Rolling Manor. However, as Lena was shocked to find out one night, Dr. Robert Lawrence was also having a secret affair with her mother-in-law and adoptive mother, Catherine. The real plan of Robert was to get hold of the property and wealth by hook or by crook. And he had been keeping both women in hand to ensure this plan. If Lena would agree to get rid of Catherine too, then he would directly inherit the wealth by being her lover and then her husband. But if Lena refused, which she does, then Robert would convince Catherine to kill the younger woman together. And with the death of Lena, the last rightful owner of the property, there would be nobody else to claim the family wealth. In that case, Robert would happily live with Catherine. And even if he got rid of her later on, there would be nobody to question his ownership of the estate. This seems to have been the exact plan of Robert, and on that particular night, when Lena refused to execute his plan, he chose to side with Catherine and get rid of Lena by killing her. Although Robert had made a fairly solid plan to inherit the property in whatever manner possible, he had not really accounted for the love or simply humaneness of the two women. While he planned to kill either of them, both Lena and Catherine refused to hurt each other. It is revealed towards the end of the film that when Robert was chasing Lena in his car, Catherine asked him to stop and let her go, which enraged the man, and he drove over Catherine, fatally hurting her. There is even a suggestion that Catherine was having the affair only to take the vile man's attention away from Lena because she knew that he would try to kill Lena very soon. At present, Robert knew that he could still try and influence Lena into following his plan. And this happens as well, for Lena does not know that her mother-in-law had tried to protect her. As a result, Lena consents to Robert's scheme to return the hurt Catherine to Rolling Manor, where she would be put to death with sedatives. That would make it appear as though she had a stroke. Additionally, Nikki had witnessed Jamie and Lena's close proximity on several occasions, and she was more knowledgeable about the situation than she was expressing, both because of these texts and also perhaps because of an inherent love for Catherine. Lena accepts that Robert is the only true evil in their lives. In the climax of Locked In, Lena succeeds in inserting the syringe into Robert's neck when the shot does not produce the desired result. Lena kills the man with a knife after acting gallantly. The video closes with Lena, Catherine, and Nikki, who had just defended each other from harm, looking on in relief as the police and paramedics arrive at the estate to remove the horrifying man's dead body. Thanks for watching Real Recapped. Please hit the subscribe button so you can get notified for more videos like this.